What's good with you? Meaning, what's good with you? Welcome to the video today. Thanks for showing up and watching. This is our second video. Pretty excited. Today we're going to talk about recovery. You might notice by my voice, I'm not feeling amazing. And so a big part of this video, and the reason I'm doing it, is because it's kind of what's going on in my day-to-day life right now. When I'm not feeling well, recovery becomes a big part of just my routine. Obviously, you know, it halts your training and it changes all these things. So I try to take advantage of maybe not being able to do as much and focusing on the smaller things that sometimes get neglected through our training, unintentionally and maybe intentionally, but it doesn't matter. It's the little things that make a big difference. And so right now, just with me not feeling the best, it's just kind of front of the mind, and also something that's a hot topic. We're seeing more and more emphasis on recovery through ice baths, sauna, all the different things. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is the movement side of things, and not as much as the ice baths, the saunas, and all these different things. As fun as those are, and as hot of a topic as they might be, it is something that you kind of find anywhere else. And so I want to talk about something a little different and a little new. The movements we're going to go over today are just a few of my favorite movements that I like to do through recovery. And I also think it's going to change your perspective a little bit on how you're going to look at recovery moving forward. Not only are these movements not true stretches, they're more dynamic based, and some of them are even strength based, which is not something that we see very often. We're seeing it more and more through, knees over toes guy and a few other people like that. But still the emphasis is on, almost a hyper flexibility. But in reality, how many of us are that flexible? I mean, I can tell you that I have mobile joints for the most part, minus my hips. But I can touch my toes, but I don't have the most flexible hamstrings. But I have flexible hamstrings that are functional. So meaning that I can go deep into a deadlift without getting hurt. While I might not be able to fold in half, it's functional. And so that's a lot of the way that I look at recovery is the functionality of the mobility. And I think it's a way that we need to start to approach mobility and flexibility, as well as our recovery, is looking at these ways that we can make our body more functional. Ice baths, saunas are a great way that we can do that, because it allows our body to adapt quicker over time. And this is why it's something that's become more prevalent, but I think we need to start looking at it from a movement perspective as well. This first movement is a simple movement, and one that I think, I don't know many people who do this. I had a physical therapist teach me this movement. A little bit different way. I found some way that worked really well for me. All this does is stretch out the big toe joint. It's your metatarsal joint, and that joint has a lot of things that attach to it, between your plantar tendon, which is the big, plantar fasciitis, the thing that runs along the bottom. And plantar fasciitis is a common injury in runners. Helps stretch that out and prevent that. It also prevents a pinching of a nerve that runs right between your toes that can easily get pinched in runners because of, narrow toe box. And then it also helps prevent posterior tib injuries. This next movement is another one that's really simple, and you barely have to change. You just flip your foot so that your foot is flush with the ground. And then you're going to sit back and kind of lay down. The closer you get your chest to your legs, the more it's going to stretch out your tibialis. This is the front part of the leg. This one's more of a true stretch. I know I talked a lot about dynamic, but this one's more of a true stretch, but it's something that gets neglected, and this will help prevent shin splints and other shin-related injuries that could occur. Keeping things simple here, this third movement, I'm just leaning back into what's called a reverse Nordic. You can actually do this as an exercise, but just leaning back and leaning far into the stretch. And what this does is it stretches out both your quads at the same time, actually opens up the knee joint, which is really helpful for preventing knee injuries. This is also going to stretch out your hip flexors. Our fourth movement today is pigeons. All you're doing is tucking your leg up underneath your chest. I'm sure it's something that you've seen. You can do these laying down, where you pull you put your, like a figure four, and then you pull your knees to your chest. This one's just laying down. I like this one because it allows for a lot more variability in the movement and allows you to adjust more easily. You can make your leg more narrow, you can put it up further, you can lay down further, you can sit up more. all the different things. And so all this is opening up the hip and stretching out your glutes. Nothing fancy, just one that I really like, and I think that is really good for running because it's helping your hips and your glutes, which are huge parts of running and common areas of injury. For our fifth movement today, we're making our way up against a wall. And you'll see here that we're just pressing forward. It's nothing crazy. It's just an ankle mobility circuit. And all you're doing is you press forward and then you go out and then you press in, keeping your foot planted in place. So you're making that movement happen at the ankle. When you go out, you're just changing the direction of that stretch, and in, same thing. But all you're doing is by rotating between those three, forward, out, in, all it's doing is hitting all the different parts of the ankle and creating more mobility in the ankle. The more mobility we have, the faster we're able to run, the more load we're able to put on our feet and on our ankles. So makes running marathons more easily, ultras more easily, so on and so forth. And if you're a trail runner, it's also going to help prevent ankle rolls. In this next exercise, this is where we start to add load into the actual movements. So this one right here is called a deep Cossack squats, whatever. I call them deep Cossacks because you stay low to the ground. You basically find that squatting position and then you keep along that plane the whole way as you go back and forth. The reason we hold a weight is because this is going to add a strength aspect to the movement. So as we're low, we're in that squatting position, we're building those leg muscles, but as we move back and forth, we're not only opening the hips, but the muscles and the tendons that are attached to the hip when you add that load are actually going to be gaining strength as well as mobility as we're going back and forth. This brings us to that whole point that I was talking about at the beginning of changing the way we're looking at mobility, is having it be functional and mobile at the same time. And this is a great way to hit both of those. Something you can add to your strength training routine or your recovery routine. This next one, same thing, where we're going to be adding load to the actual exercise. This one is an ATG split squat, knee over toe split squat, however you want to look at it. There's two ways to do this. There's one where you can just stay forward in that stretch and just hold that. You want to make sure that back knee stays off the ground. You'll notice that my form is a little off and my back knee kept hitting the ground. You want to keep that back knee up. Now again, you can hold that up there and all it's going to do is open up your knee and stretch out your VMO, your vastus medialis, which is a big muscle that sits right beside your knee on the inside of your leg. And this is going to stretch that out. You're also going to get a little bit of opening up in the hips and your adductors as well. But this one specifically is focusing on the knee. Now, you can add the movement where you go back and forth, which is what I like to personally do because that also adds a strength aspect where you're actually having to use the muscles through mobility and adding a strength component to it. Again, back to that functional mobility. Our last movement of the day, one that I particularly dread, I don't know why, but it's just one that I don't like, but I do it anyways, is just doing single leg wall ball slams. All you're gonna do is find a wall. I luckily have this platform at my gym where you stand on one foot and you balance and you throw the ball at it. What this does is if the ball comes back and you have to catch it, you have to react and use the little muscles in your ankles and in your leg to stabilize that ankle. This is going to add more strength than it is mobility to the ankle, but when you pair your ankle mobility circuit with this, it's the perfect combination of that functional mobility. I know I said that last one was our last one, but in a way it was, because this next one that I almost forgot to mention is just running. Just hopping on a treadmill and running. I like the treadmill because it's that steady state. It's a really good way to just find a slow pace and just hold that. You know, running is a great way to recover. Even though we have been running and we will continue to run, sometimes just getting those really light miles under our feet, just in a zone 1, zone 2 steady state. Maybe that's walking for you. And if that is, there's you hop on the treadmill and walk. But just getting in those easy miles and just moving a little bit extra, it makes a big difference, improves your blood flow. I mean, we know all the benefits of zone 1, zone 2, and that's all this is going to do for us. Just finding that easy, steady state run and just going with it. That's it for today. Keeping it simple, keeping it short, keeping it sweet. Not trying to overload the information, not trying to act like I know what I'm actually talking about. This is just what's helped me and what helps me recover Again, not feeling super well, so this is a great way to still incorporate that movement and still, in a way, improve fitness, even though I'm not feeling well. Where those are times that we maybe feel like we are going to lose fitness and that we're losing our progress. And so by doing these types of movements and exercises, it kind of helps me mentally feel like I'm not losing that fitness. And even though usually we're not, a couple days off is actually pretty good for us every once in a while, especially in the midst of marathon training. If you made it this far, I hope you're not watching. I hope you don't subscribe. And if you are watching, thank you. And if you do subscribe, thank you. Thanks for coming.